I've learned to see that everything that is perceived as bad can also be a good thing in the future. And so you never know why something happens negative at the moment until you look at it in retrospect, right? Just like when I lost that $4,000, I didn't understand at that time, but in retrospect, I needed to learn, resourcefulness. I needed to learn these things. Well, for example, a year and a half ago, I lost almost about $10 million. $10 million, a lot of money.
Right. That's a lot of
And at
money.
that moment, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I was stressing so much. I was getting rashes on my face. My blood pressure was at 180. I'm like, how could this be good? Right. But I did learn through that time, even to learn how to be neutral, because my spirit was more mature at that time.
I want to talk about that resourceful character, like resourcefulness in general, right? I really want to own in on this for a second. I agree that 100% resourcefulness is one of the key traits of just being like, dude, just figure it out. Like in the end, there's only you and whatever resources you can find around you. You got a computer, then it's gonna be great. If you don't, go to the library, right? Like just figuring stuff out. And I'm curious, how do you develop that, right? I think that's a skill. So obviously you're up against the wall with $0. You have to. But so like, and this will be like, this question will go into your story too, is like, how do you develop resourcefulness? And like, when you have zero, what do you do to become resourceful? If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think for me, because I literally had nothing, and I was so desperate. I was so desperate to making this work, and I just I just found ways. I utilized YouTube, I utilized free resources, and I stopped playing the victim card. Too many people, they can never be resourceful because they are continuously playing a victim card. Snap out of it. You got robbed $4,000. That is the reality. I'm not going to sit and dwell as a victim anymore. I'm going to become a victor of this situation, and I'm going to make it happen. And this is going to be part of my story. And so your mindset needs to look at these quote unquote terrible events, which in my opinion, are just neutral. Everything is neutral. You make $1 million, good. You lose $1 million, good. You lose $10 million, good. You make 10 million, good. All of these things are neutral for me and they have to be, because if you're too excited about wins, or you get too excited about wins, you get too down about the losses. And so I never play the victim card. I never want to play the victim card. And if you focus on never being a victim, you can always find resourcefulness in every situation. You can find the good in every situation, the positivity in every negative situation. And I think that that's the foundation in the start, is you have to look at situations completely different.
Gotcha. So let's get into it. So what did you do? Right? Like you're there, you have literally $0 to your name. What do you do?
Yeah, the first thing I did was obsessively watch YouTube videos. But then when I realized that wasn't working too much, I went and I tried to get a job at a real estate investment firm. That's when they laughed me out of the office. And I was like, okay, maybe I just need to, maybe I'm so terrible that I'm not even worth a $12 an hour job. I'll just work for free. And so what I did was I found another real estate investor, the biggest one in the area. And I went to his office and I waited. And I knew he got to his office at 8 a.m. I waited and I waited and I waited until he got to his office. I remember, hey, Mr., I'm not going to mention his name, but I said, hey, my name is Raphael Vargas, and I just want to work for free for you. Like, I'll just do whatever you want. You want your car clean? No problem. You want me to clean the toilets and the bathrooms in the office? No problem. You want me to cold call, or you want me to get your dry cleaning? Whatever it is, I will just be free labor. Because I was just so broken down that it even devalued me to the point where I'm like, man, I'm not even worth the job. I'm not even worth hourly wage. I'll just work for free. And he gave me a chance. He gave me a very, very non-hopeful chance. Like, okay, kid, like, here's a list of, properties to call, here's a script, and just, good luck, right? He didn't believe in me, but he did give me a chance. And with that chance, that's how I closed my first deal. Literally, I closed my first deal, $30,000, and I split the deal with him, and that was the game changer of my life. It took me a long time to really get to that place to humble myself and find that mentor that just gave me that cold call list. But that is how I closed my first deal, and that's how I became resourceful. Literally from nothing, begging a mentor to work for free, pulling up to his office. I'd call him, he didn't answer, or he said no, thank you. That's when I just met him in person. And so that's how I closed my first deal and became resourceful.
I love that. I love that so much. So is it as simple as going to the office and then being like, I'll do anything? Like, what do you literally say? Because I have people who talk to me and are like, hey man, like I want you to be my mentor. I love your content. Like I really enjoy it. Right. And I'm just like, and I'm initially like the first guy. I'm not gonna ever take anyone's money and not give them anything, but I'm initially the first guy, like, honestly, no, I don't really do that much. Like, how do you how do you feel like you, because I sense, and you tell me if I'm wrong, I sense you're almost bringing back that fire talking right now, the fire you had of being like, no, 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 I have to do this. Like there is no other option for me right now. I really need to do this. And do you feel like it's like, what is it? Is it like just being like, I'm here, I'll do anything, I will like clean the toilets? Do you feel like it's just that? Or is there another way to even show that, like, the fire that you're serious? Because to me, I'll mentor anyone who I feel is serious, right? The issue is people want it and they take time from you, and then it's like, okay, that was a complete waste of time, right? So how do you? I guess what I'm trying to ask is how do you get a mentor like that? How do you show that you're serious? Do you feel like the best way is always like be willing to clean the toilets, or what's your opinions on that?
I think there was a lot of personal development that happened before I even met him. Even though financially I was at zero, there was a lot of personal development that happened before I met him. So I understood how to be persuasive in sales, and I read books to understand how to master the art of persuasiveness. And so when I met him, I was clean cut. I acted like I knew what the hell I was doing. I could crush it. I can close deals. And I just, it was a sales tactic. It was 100% sales. So you have to approach, if you just approach a mentor and you're sloppy and you're, hey man, I'll do anything for you, take out the trash, whatever. It's like, you're not going to actually get somebody high level to take you seriously. This is just one of the ways that I secured mentor. This is how I actually got my multi-billion-dollar mentor as well, because myself, I still have mentors, right? I literally just wired my mentor $100,000 because we're in a business together. I sent him 100,000. He's a multi-billionaire, owns the 49ers, incredible mentor of mine. And he's like a father figure to me. We've known each other 6-7 years now. He's like a father to me. And the same approach that I approached my first mentor when I was dead broke was the same approach I approached my multi-billion-dollar mentor as a millionaire and a multi-millionaire when I was 25 years old, 24 years old, right? And what I did was I went super early to his office. I was he was holding a Bible study. I was like pushing so hard to get in this Bible study, right? So hard. Finally, they accepted me in. There was only 8 CEOs allowed to be in this Bible study. Finally, they accepted me in. I remember going there super bright and early, right? Super bright and early. If the Bible study was at 6:30, I got there at 6. He's sitting there, hair crazy. I remember walking to the elevator. I was so nervous. Walking to the elevator. He owns the whole building, huge commercial building. I walk into his office. I'm like looking around. It's like the San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl stuff, all this stuff, pictures of him and the team and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is ridiculous. And then I look at the conference room and it's just him in the conference room. And I'm like nervous, super nervous. I'm 24, 25 years old. I made a couple million in my career, but like I wanted to master and be a real estate developer like him. And so I remember what I did was I just studied him, right? You have to study your mentors. If you want to find a mentor that actually wants to take you under their wing, study them. I studied him and I was like, he's raising money for, this helping children and feeding children in Africa or whatever it was. And I remember I was just like, man, I'm just going to write him a check. So I brought a check, blank check. I put $3,000 on it. And I remember walking up and I'm like, hey, Mr. Ed, it's so nice to meet you. My name is Raphael Vargas. He said, oh, yeah, son, you're here for the Bible study? Yeah, yeah. Hey, Mr. Ed, I just wanted to give this to you and just let you know, like, I greatly appreciate it. Here's a blank check for $3,000. I know you don't know me, but put it towards your foundation, put it towards you, whatever you want to do. And I never forget, he looked at the check and he looked at me so crazy, like, who are you again? Like, who are you again? And I'm like, my name is Raphael Vargas. I just want to show my gratitude for being here. And he's reading a newspaper. He rips the newspaper, writes his assistant's cell phone number. He gives it to me. He says, talk to my assistant, set up a lunch. And it was like, boom, set up a lunch. And after sitting down with him, we built this ridiculous relationship where, like, I literally just spent 3 days with him in the ranch, just me and him talking about real estate development, where the market's going. I mean, spending 3 days with him at the ranch with a multi-billion-dollar, real estate developer, we're hunting, and he's like a father to me now. And I know that was a long story, but I just want you guys to understand really how you get a mentor, what you have to do to humble yourself, and I'm sure you talk to people all the time that there's too many people that have egos the size of this 10,000 square foot mansion. It's like, dude, humble yourself, get beneath, lower yourself, and don't act like you know everything, because I approach these mentors like, I'm here to serve. I'm going to be a servant. And that is the greatest of leaders. The greatest of leaders are the greatest of servants. And if you want to become a great leader, you must learn how to master the art of servanthood and being able to serve those that one day can serve you back. And I think that's really how you master it.
I love that so much. I 100% agree. And one of the key things that I want to point out just of what you said was when you talked about listening. I feel like that is one of the keys to being a mentor, is like, listen to what the mentor cares about, right? I know so many different stories. Some mentors you can just get by paying them, right? So they have mentorships and then you can just pay them and all of that type of stuff. But if you're broke, and even if you're not broke, like your story, how you were talking about, it's like, I listened to what he cared about. He cares about his foundation. So I'm going to do something for his foundation. And Raphael, I'm willing to bet, like, you obviously wanted to connect with him, but like, even if that didn't work, you weren't necessarily expecting anything in that moment. You just were like, I just want to give this. I want to serve, as you were saying. And then if you keep doing that, you will get the right mentor. There are certain people who are going to be the wrong mentor, and I think that's filtered out when they see servitude and they don't like it. That's the wrong mentor. If they see servitude and they like it, that's the right mentor anyways. So I just wanted to emphasize that point real quick of like, that is one of the key things, is like, listen to what they actually care about if you actually want them to mentor you. I want to go back real quick to something you were talking about earlier about keeping things neutral, keeping like the highs and the lows completely neutral. Cause I think this is another thing that kills entrepreneurs. You get a big deal, you get like a 50K wholesale fee. You're like, oh my God, this is crazy. This was my entire W-2 salary last year. Let's freaking go. And then you don't get another deal for 3 months and you're like, oh, why am I doing so bad? What's wrong with me? Right? Just that highs and that lows. So I just want you to really quickly talk, like, how do you keep things neutral, the good and the bad? Because I 100% agree that's huge in being able to keep your sanity in this business, because otherwise you're gonna feel like a manic depressive, constantly going up and down. So how do you keep things neutral?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's very hard to keep things neutral when you're working a dead end job and you're watching your family struggle, and then you finally close your 50K deal. It's like your whole life radically changes. I mean, it's impossible to keep things neutral when you go from zero to closing your first $50,000 wholesale deal. And I really just want to, reiterate this because I want you to bask in that moment and remember that moment. I mean, that moment is a life-changing moment. So I'm not saying don't celebrate good moments, especially moments like that, but I think now attachment to money, specifically for myself, I've learned how to be very neutral about things, and now having a lot more maturity in my finances and my spirit, I've learned to see that everything that is perceived as bad can also be a good thing in the future. And so you never know why something happens negative at the moment until you look at it in retrospect, right? Just like when I lost that $4,000, I didn't understand at that time, but in retrospect, I needed to learn, resourcefulness. I needed to learn these things. Well, for example, a year and a half ago, I lost almost about $10 million. $10 million, a lot of money.
Right. That's a lot of
And at
money.
that moment, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I was stressing so much. I was getting rashes on my face. My blood pressure was at 180. I'm like, how could this be good? Right. But I did learn through that time, even to learn how to be neutral, because my spirit was more mature at that time. And so, what I'll say about it is that you just never know why you have to go through things. You just have to have faith that it is for your good. And that's what I stand on. I stand on just my belief again with God. And I don't like to use, I don't like to call myself a religious man. I think that religion has a negative connotation. I think that religion has a negative connotation because it's tied to doing things and not doing things, or laws and no laws, or you can do this and you can't do this. And I don't believe that a relationship with God is about laws and rules and chains. I believe a relationship with God is about breaking the chains. And I believe a true relationship with God, that God himself will change your heart, and he'll change the desires of your heart to desire the things that he wants from you. So he removes these, degenerate desires to give the desires of what he wants. And so, long story short, the neutrality comes from a place of just simply understanding that all of the plans that God has for me, he's using them for my good. And even the negative things that are happening at the moment, I have faith that in the future, I know that I needed to go through these things because it's for my good. And that's what's been able to have me.
I love it. Awesome, man. So real quick, I want to keep going through your story. We got like 13 more minutes left in the podcast, or if you have to go at the 10-minute mark, I understand. But I want to get a little bit more into your story. You keep working for this guy, and then what happens? When are you like, okay, I think I can do it for myself? Or let's get a little bit of the continuation of the story.
Yeah, you're talking about my first mentor?
Yeah. After you got your first deal. So you get, actually, real quick, how was that feeling? Just like describe that feeling of that first 30K check. I mean, I guess it was 15K, but
30,
either
30.
way,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
15, you're right. Net.
15 to you.
Uh-huh.
What you do? Did you just I'm not gonna lie, I might have been a teensy bit petty and been like, hey mom, look at this right here, right? Like look at what your son did. Like it wasn't all a goddamn scam. I don't know. I'm just curious because that whole lead up was so crazy with just everything that happened in your life. Like what did you do when like you saw $15,000 in the bank?
Yeah, well, it came in a check. And I just remember leaving. I was at the closing table and they gave me the check. And I remember when they gave me the check, I looked at it and I ran out of the room. I remember running out of the room. I just started weeping. I was just weeping and weeping and weeping. It was an intense moment for me. I mean, it was so intense. And like, now seeing 30,000, 30,000 is
Right.
number. It's not even about that. But at that moment, I was just weeping because I was like, wow, this was real. 9 months of ridiculous pain and suffering and everyone against me. And that instilled this ridiculous amount of faith that I can do this. I can make this a reality, and this dream can be true. And it just built in me more faith. It just built in me more faith. So that feeling was ridiculous. And the first thing I did was, I took my family on a vacation. I took my mother and my brother to California. My brother loves The Price is Right. The first thing I did was I took him on a vacation
Love it.
and I took him to The Price is Right. So that's what I did.
I love it. That's awesome. That's super cool. And then how did your family react to that? Like were they supportive after that or were they still like a little bit like
Yeah, there was,
reserved?
yeah, there
Okay,
was,
at that point they were like, "All right,
yeah.
yeah, no, he's got it. He's got it."
After that, yeah, exactly.
I love it. And then like cuz like I know now you're like incredibly popular on social media and like you've gotten all of the success like how do you deal a lot of people I know because I try to convince people to do social media. I think social media is one of the most key things ever for networking, for getting deals, for raising private money for deals, all of this type of stuff. So I really try to convince people. And a lot of people, a lot of times, are obviously afraid of what people are going to say from wherever they are, right? So what would be your advice to someone who, is afraid of what people are going to think of them if they start going down the social media journey?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a really hard one because, if you're gonna care about what people think about you, you just shouldn't even desire any kind of level of success. You just shouldn't desire it. You have to understand that this level of success, when you are chasing greatness, when you are chasing legacy, when you are chasing generational and breaking generational curses, you are going to be hated. You are going to be disliked. You are going to be ridiculed. You are going to be criticized negatively. And if you are not ready for that, then you should not go down the path of success. You should not go down the path in this journey of building wealth because it's full of it. Okay. And you have to learn how to master the art of not giving an F. You have to learn how to master the art of not caring about what people think about my funny hair, about my glasses, about my stupid watch. I don't care what they think about me. I'm going to be me. I'm going to be 100% authentically me. And I'm going to be radically the man or the woman that God intended me to be. And when you're living in that truth, when you're truly living in that truth, you can go on social media and just be you without any shadow of a doubt and have a lot of confidence working in your own purpose and who God intended you to be. And so you have to learn how to master the art of just not caring what people think because they're going to hate you.
I love it. That's true. I mean, it is very true. But I also like, yeah, like it's people are gonna think what they think, but also like for the just me reiterating what I've already told to people is like in the end, who cares? Who are these people, right? I mean, like it's really shitty if someone who you really love is saying that type of stuff, but in the end, like Raphael's talking about, if you want the greatness, it's gonna happen. People are gonna hate you. It just is what it is. It's part of the game. If you want to, the only way to not be hated is to be part of the pack, because every single time that you go to a greater level of greater heights, everyone hates it because they know that theoretically they could be there because they aren't from that different of an environment than you are from, right? So I just wanted to reiterate that, my man. I really want to be respectful of your time, so I always ask one last question on these podcasts that is one of my favorite questions ever, which is, if you could go back to that young kid who just learned about wholesaling, right, and is just starting to get into entrepreneurship, what would you tell him then, knowing everything that you know now with all of the knowledge you gained in the past in all these years?
Man, that's such a hard question. I would honestly tell him not to go into real estate wholesaling, because at that time in 2013, the opportunity was absolutely incredible. I was crushing it. We were flipping 50 houses a month. But at this moment in time, at least in the current market trend, right? If you were asking me, hey, Raphael, today, in today's market trend and what's happening in today's market, I would tell them, don't do real estate wholesaling. That's my perspective. I believe it is way too competitive. The margins have ridiculously reduced. The interest rates are way too high. We're in a weird period right now where buyers are realistic about pricing and sellers are still unrealistic about pricing. So we're in a weird dynamic trying to find margin in deals, very difficult. And I believe that real estate and single family real estate prices are going to drop significantly. I think there's going to be massive amount of defaults are going to be happening very, very soon. So what I would tell my younger self in today's market is figure out how to build massive amounts of liquidity. I'm talking about millions of dollars, minimum $1 million in liquid money. Figure out how to do that immediately. And the way you do that, the fastest way to do that for myself and what I do is in the digital space. I mean, it's the easiest thing. You can work from home, work from a laptop, find high ticket clients for a high ticket product, anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000, right? It is easy. It is so easy to make $1 million selling 10 people on a $100,000 ticket versus selling, 1,000 people on a $10,000 item or a $10,000 ticket. I'm sorry, on a $1,000 ticket, right? And so I would tell my younger self, stop thinking so small. Go into higher ticket businesses, higher ticket sales where you can make significantly more per deal. For example, ERC, what I do with ERC right now, the biggest deal I've closed in one deal, never made this in one single real estate wholesaling deal. My biggest wholesale deal was 75. It was about 400,000. It was 394,000. So about 400,000 was my biggest real estate wholesale deal. My biggest ERC deal was $2.23 million in one deal, one wire, done.
Wait, real quick. What is ERC?
Now I got him interested. ERC is the employee tax retention credit. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Employee tax retention credit, where we help business owners qualify for a free grant from the IRS. So the IRS was giving free grants for business owners that qualify up to $26,000 per employee. And we would get a percentage of, whatever we help a business owner qualify for. And, I helped a Ford dealership with, 800 plus employees qualify for $10+ million. And we made over 2.2 million on just that one deal. Another deal, 670,000. Another deal, I made 1.1 million. Another deal, 700,000. So it's like, I would tell my younger self to stop thinking so small. Stop thinking about the 5K checks, the 10K checks. Focus on the 100K, the 200K, the 500K. Where can you get that right now in today's market? And there's a lot of places you can get that. I'm telling you right now, a lot of places, versus searching for the single family wholesale deal where you're going to make $5,000, $7,000, $12,000, and you have to spend money on marketing and your acquisitions and XYZ, and you're pulling your hair out when deals fall through. It's a lot more tedious. I'd rather tell my younger self, close $1 million deal, just one, work all at it, close that one deal, and then focus on closing and figuring out how to close more higher ticket deals. That's what I would tell my younger self.
I love that. Well, I'm definitely doing research on ERC 100%. I bet the entire friggin' audience is, right? That might have been to me. But you don't know me as well, but I have a pretty successful wholesaling business. But that's pretty freaking interesting, right? So that's a really interesting thing that probably the next business I'll get into. I'm going to think about that, look for some high ticket closings. So my man, I appreciate you so much for coming on the podcast. Guys, for the people watching right now, comment in here, say how much you appreciate Raphael for coming on and all the absolute gold you've been dropping, to be honest. It's been an absolute fire podcast. I've been loving it. Where can people find you? Where can people reach out to you? Is there anything you'd like to promote? What are the avenues for people to get in contact with you, and what else do you want to promote?
Yeah, just follow me on my social media. I'm most active on Instagram at Real Raphael Vargas. Follow me on Instagram. You'll see absolutely all of my, promotions and everything that I offer right there at Real Raphael Vargas. So make sure to follow me there. I'm starting a podcast as well, the Real and Raw podcast. So we're starting one up there. So make sure you follow the Real and Raw podcast as well. And yeah, just follow me on social. You'll see everything that we got going on.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If you've got time, chill for a minute after. If you don't, I totally understand either way. But all right, guys, that's episode 98. We are freaking in it. Next week, I'm going to be in Phoenix. So I'm not sure if it's going to be the regular time for the podcast. So I'm not 100% sure. But next week, guys, you guys should watch Real Estate Disruptors with Steve Trang. I'm going to be his guest for next week. And then also, hopefully, I'm going on Wholesale Hotline, which will be cool, which I know a lot of my audience knows these podcasts. So go on there. I'll be posting a bunch of stuff. And Raphael, thank you so much, bro. You've been an absolute pleasure. And with that, I'm ending the podcast. Let's freaking go.